iawn I chi i'r cyfarfod. I'm going to ask Rhian just to introduce a new member to the committee first of all.
Right. Croeso pawb. I'm not sure. Have we got a new member to the committee here today? Sorry, I wasn't aware that we had a.
No, I think the only new member our side is Councillor Don, and he was here at the last meeting, I'm sure. So
yes.
So let's go straight on to the apologies for absence to this meeting. Rhian, you've had a couple.
Yes, apologies for today are from Councillors Melvin Mile, Hugh Irving and Joan Vaughan. I'm not aware of any others.
Anyone else aware of any of the apologies? Okay, so on to item 2, declarations of interest. If you want to declare now or as things come up in the course of the discussion, then please raise your hand. So urgent matters for the meeting. Nothing's been received, so we can move straight on to item 4. If we go at this rate, we're going to be finished in about 2 or 3 minutes, I think. So item 4, minutes of the last meeting. First of all, if we can approve them, the minutes are on page 7 to 14 of the pack. So are there any points that people want to raise about the accuracy of the minutes?
Could I move the minutes, please, Chair?
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Councillor Nigel Smith.
I'll second, Chair.
Councillor Adwell Roberts, are we happy to approve the minutes? Can you just raise your physical hands? I can see most of you. Okay, that's pretty well overwhelming. So on to the actions. Are there any action points that Rhian, first of all, do you want to raise anything? I couldn't see anything immediately.
No, I don't think there are, because the majority of the items come up again today. The wellbeing assessment and the community engagement update, they're on your agenda today. And then we'll come at the end of this morning's meeting to the recommendations around the 6 themes to make scrutiny fit for the future and the forward work programme. So I can't see there's anything else there to raise.
Okay, thanks. So unless any other members of the committee have got something to raise from those minutes, we'll move on. Let's go on to item 5, and that's the Conwy and Denbighshire Wellbeing Assessment 2022 onwards engagement overview. And I think Fran Lewis is with us. I can see Fran there. Are you going to introduce the item, Fran, or are we going to have an introduction from Nicola?
No, I'm happy to take it. Thank you, Chair. Bwrdd pawb, good morning, everybody. Apologies that my camera is off. Whilst it's beautiful and sunny here on Anglesey, my connection doesn't seem to be that great. So I'll have to keep my video off. Yes, so a bit of a double act today. I'm going to talk you through the process that we did in terms of engagement, and then Nicola is going to take you through the actual assessment in the next agenda item. So within the pack, if I can take you to page 15, and I'll just take you through the process that we went through to undertake the engagement for the assessment of wellbeing. So as members are aware, we are duty bound to produce an assessment of wellbeing, and our approach to doing that, as we did last time, is very much taking hand in hand both the views of the community and also the assessment of the data research and demographic trends. So that worked well for us last time, so we wanted to use the same model this time. But ultimately, as you are all fully aware, that we are working in different times now, and that did prove to be more challenging, trying to undertake engagement during a period of COVID restrictions. But nevertheless, we've adapted our approach and done our best to make sure that we have engaged and considered community views. In terms of our approach then, we realised that we needed to do this remotely, but we're very conscious that whilst in general people have very much adjusted to working in Zoom or working on Teams, this has to be balanced with the fact that there is also Zoom fatigue. And we did our utmost to promote the engagement and to do kind of a dual track approach, that we didn't digitally exclude anyone either just by doing events digitally. So in terms of developing the conversation, we did this both in Denbighshire and also in Conwy. And whilst our approach was slightly different, I think we were confident that we were asking similar questions and just going about it in a way that suited our particular county. So within Denbighshire, the approach was to hold a series of virtual meetings by geographic area. And in Conwy, we took the approach of holding virtual meetings by particular citizen wellbeing theme. But either way, we managed to get the views of the community. I think it's fair to say that that approach worked, although the take-up was limited. And so to balance that, we also did a piece of work to basically look through all the research and all the engagement, that had taken place over the last sort of 18 to 24 months, because that engagement work is still valid. And so we did a piece of work regionally to look at that, to also support our virtual engagement sessions. As I said, to make sure that we didn't digitally exclude, and also that we work with people who perhaps couldn't make those meetings, we also, both counties did an online survey that anyone could access at any time of the day. And for those who weren't comfortable doing that digitally, we made sure that hard copies were also available to gain those views. What did work particularly well is a regional event that we commissioned to seek the views of what's termed the seldom heard. You may have heard the term hard to reach, seldom heard. It's about making sure we seek the views of all areas of our demographic range. And we did that through the help of the Community Voice Forum. And that was a really successful event where over 40 organisations attended, and we're really grateful to both North West and North East Wales regional cohesion teams who led that on our behalf. It worked really well because they already have quite a strong relationship with these particular groups, and that is something we really want to build on, because in order to really gain the views of the community, as you know, as elected members, to build that relationship and that rapport with particular forums is so important. So we'd really like to continue that approach. We also targeted other groups, had a really good discussion with the visually impaired forum, and as we all know, vitally important that we don't just seek the views of adults, that we seek the views of young people, young adults. And that was challenging this time, but we were able to seek the views of the Youth Council in Denbighshire, and within Conwy, where our Youth Council is currently under review, because the members of the Youth Council have had the audacity to actually grow up and move on. So we are re-looking at our Youth Council, but we were able to attend youth groups. So we were able to get that young person's perspective. And through that process, we were able to collate the views, put them into themes, and then corroborate that with the demographic and research information. And that's been pulled together into the assessment of wellbeing, which is the next agenda item. So we have provided within the pack an appendices, and that just gives you information in terms of that demographic breakdown. That's the demographic breakdown, just to note, of our own engagement, not necessarily the mapping work that we did on the regional engagements as well. So I will stop there, Chair. Hopefully that's given you an overview of how we adapted in quite a challenging circumstance, and provide you with reassurance that you know, we were able to gain community views. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr, thank you. So we thanks for the report there, and we're just looking at the engagement process rather than the results of the engagement, which we're looking at in the next item. I think that Nicola's going to take us through. So can I open it to comments from members? I've got a couple, but I'll save them till after after other people. Unless nobody's in the queue. Nobody's in the queue at the minute. That's not very British. So let's go to me then. So my point is, if you look at the engagement, the number of people, I think it always surprises me how little people do engage, even when encouraged. Having said that, I don't engage very often on questionnaires that I'm asked to do either, but it's always sort of quite a shocking, really, a shock to me that so few people engage. But looking at the engagement from Ddinbych and Conwy, you said that it was carried out differently by each authority, slightly differently. And just one of the striking things is that in Conwy, there were 46 males and 23 females that commented. And in Ddinbych, there were 34 males and 50 females. So the representation seems to have reversed for Ddinbych and Conwy. Is that because of the difference in the way that these things were approached, or is it that if you're male and you live in Conwy, you've got a lot to say for yourself and you've not got quite as much to say for yourself? I don't know. I'm not sure what the reason is for that, but I don't know if you could comment on the differences of the engagement, and that obviously, you know, both of those together, the best bits of both of them would mean a good representation of both male and female.
Yeah, I think the simple answer is we don't know. I mean, it is a small outturn. And I think in terms of, you know, advertising and promoting the events, we used a very similar model because we have the same sort of overview of stakeholders that we contact. We both used our social media platforms. We obviously encouraged participation via elected members helping us promote it, and also through town and community councils. But I think it's very difficult to draw any particular conclusions in terms of the breakdown. I know certainly from Conway's point of view, we had one or two participants who were fantastic. They came to every single event, and they were male, but that shouldn't skew the overall stats, really.
And I mean, the same applies to the age profile of respondents as well. And I'm sure I'll get the same answer from that. But I mean, I think it's certainly worth looking at the way that both engagement projects were undertaken, just to see if there's a way that we can really engage with as many people as possible in both counties.
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult. And I suppose one of the lessons learned is holding them during the day. We did try, again, speaking from Conway's perspective, because that's the area I covered, to hold some meetings at different times, and also particularly on our theme for education in the evening, to try and encourage particularly, you know, parents. But in terms of take up, it didn't make that much difference. It's that challenge, isn't it? If you think personally, even holding things, maybe if we did the evening or weekends, it's that Zoom fatigue that when you spent all day in a Zoom meeting yourself, the inclination to then log on and do an evening participation is very difficult as well. I think it just reflects the challenging times we're in at the moment. Although, you know, it is technically more accessible than having to drive to an event somewhere. But yeah, I think it's difficult to draw conclusions from it.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, but we all found them a novelty, didn't we, at the beginning, but
Yeah.
longer. Cynghorydd Mary Lloyd Davis.
Diolch, Mr Cadeirydd. Cwestiwn diddorol iawn gynnach chi fanna. I mi, dydy bobl ddim ond yn ymateb os ostio cymwch chi pont Llanerch yn Trefnant, oedd yr ymateb yn wych yn fanno, yn edrych am bont newydd neu ddim pont. Ac dyna'r peth, mae'n dibynnu faint o bobl mae'n effeithio'n uniongyrchol arnyn nhw, ydyn nhw'n mynd i ymateb. Os oes nhw ddim diddordeb, wel, dydyn nhw ddim yn ymateb. Mi welwch, a dwi'n siŵr bod Nicola yn gweld hyn yn aml iawn yn sydd ddim bach. Mae'n dibynnu beth yw'r pwnc. Ac dwi'n meddwl bod rhaid ni, ddim lleisu dilo, dwi'n mynd dweud, ond ddim rhaid ni golli cwsg os ydy'r rhif yn isel. Diolch yn fawr.
Okay, diolch. No other councillors want to comment? Nigel, Councillor Nigel Smith.
Thank you. Well, I totally agree with Councillor Merrick. You know, the officers have gone out, they've facilitated the opportunity for the residents to give their opinions either digitally or on these questionnaires, and you know, there's always apathy amongst the local residents. They don't want to get involved, and it's difficult to engage with them, and I totally get that, but we have facilitated the opportunity there quite clearly, but the response or the pickup from the residents is extremely low, as it usually is from my memory. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Nigel. Nicola Neil.
Diolch, Chair. I just wanted to come in on that point. Thank you to Merrick and Nigel. I think there's a really measured response actually to this question about the quantity of responses we've had to the engagement. And I think also to add to that, what's important as we carry on our work as a PSB is not just the number of people who've engaged with this one-off, once every 5 years county conversation approach, but I think a useful question for scrutiny to explore in future is how we engage and consult and involve our residents in designing solutions in the future as our wellbeing plan evolves. So I really want to give a message that this isn't a one-off exercise. Consultation is something that we're and engagement is something that we're committed to work that we do. So yeah, that's the key point I really wanted to raise in response to those comments. Diolch.
Okay, thanks, Nicola. Councillor Liz Roberts.
Yes, thank you. I think it's doing it during COVID, it has opened up opportunities, as Nicola says, when we revisit it again. We have got the opportunity of meeting socially, networking, or doing it by Zoom. You know, this kind of platform. So for next time, we've got, you know, different opportunities, haven't we? So we have learned something through this COVID period. So, you know, just something for the future.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Don Milne.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you have a big problem here in that it's a broad consultation. If you've got a single item, a new road or some major development, then people can clearly see that. Here, you're looking longer term, you're looking greater breadth, and people need a greater background to understand what is going on and what we're trying to do. And you only have to see the social media to see perhaps the shallow comments that come about, that perhaps some of the information that we could put out through these sort of meetings would help inform a little bit more. But again, I think we're waiting until we can have more personal presentation, perhaps the kind of idea of, a drop-in workshop in a town centre where people are about and around and maybe want to spend just a few minutes saying, oh, what's this about?
Thank you. Quality, not quantity. No other councillors want to comment, so the recommendations of the report are to receive, provide observations and support the report. Would someone like to, we're supporting the report, would someone like to propose? Councillor Jeanette Chamberlain-Jones, thank you, and Cyhoeddus Mary Lloyd Davis as seconder. Diolch yn fawr. Those in favour? Okay, thank you. I think that's unanimous. It's certainly overwhelming. Anyone against? Very pleasant silence there. And thank you very much. Thank you for your report, Fran. And I know public engagement is a very, very difficult thing. And thank you to all officers that have been involved in that. And as some councillors have mentioned, we don't get a problem getting opinions when we walk down the street, that's for certain, on just about every issue possible. So, okay, diolch yn fawr. So moving on to the next item on the agenda, item number 6, and this is the actual report, and Nicola is going to take us through.
Diolch, Chair. Bore da pawb. So today I want to talk to you about a consultation on the wellbeing assessment that we've been working on over the last 12 months. And what I want, we've got a few questions in there as we've launched the statutory consultation. So I'd like to discuss with you your thoughts and your responses to some of those questions. In terms of the wellbeing assessment's contents and also how we might usefully apply it and use the assessment in the future. So today the conversation with you is a really important and a statutory step within the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act legislation. When we produce these assessments, which are a statutory tool, you are a statutory consultee body. So it's an important step in our process to publishing that assessment today. What I want to do today in the presentation that I'll give you is just really focus on an overview of how we've gone about developing the wellbeing assessment to give you assurance about the robustness of the process and the analysis. I don't intend to go into any detail about the actual content that you'll see in the executive summary and that you will see in the on the website that you've been given a link to, but I am familiar with the content and will be happy to take any questions. So just to set out the purpose of this document, it's a key strategic document under the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act legislation, and it is intended that it will be used to underpin strategic planning for public bodies in Wales. So that's local authorities, health boards, as well as PSBs. So production of the assessment has been a really significant task. We started it actually around 12 months ago, and we did so by assembling a cross-sector, cross-county editorial team of researchers from different, or experts from different sections within different organisations in the public sector. And they were tasked with examining the well-being of the area based on the 7 wellbeing goals under the Future Generations Act legislation. So to produce the assessment, we've drawn on public sector expertise. So whether that's both in terms of data and research that's been recently undertaken, or professional observations and experiences of our colleagues. We've also established links with national research bodies such as Data Cymru and the Wales Centre for Public Policy. That's fed into the assessment as well. And then, as Fran's already talked to you about, the engagement was a significant contributor to the assessment as well, where we've engaged with professionals, residents and elected members. And all of the intelligence that we've accumulated over that time has been used to review and update the existing assessment, and also consider gaps that we might want to highlight. So whether there are any new and emerging issues that weren't on our radar so prevalently when we did this previously in 2017. The research and analysis phase really lasted from January to September. And what we've been doing since then is sense checking some of the analysis and the conclusions that we reached among the mutual editorial team that was established, and also with colleagues outside. So we've had connections with Glyndŵr University, with a national organisation called Co-Production Wales, and we sense checked our analysis and the assessment before publishing for consultation. So you'll see within the on the website and in the executive summary that's been shared with you, there's a vast wealth of information and knowledge that's contained within this assessment. It's housed online in a Wikipedia style, easily navigable website to enable people to start with high-level analysis and a high-level overview of some of the challenges and the opportunities faced across Conwy and Denbighshire, so that people then can start to drill down in particular topics if they want to. So as with all research really, it's not usually a scarcity of info that's a challenge. The real challenge is around how we make sense of the information that's available, how we analyse it and how we draw conclusions. And that's why the consultation we've led the consultation by publishing and sharing an executive summary. So it's a bit of an overview of the key topics and key themes that seem to be coming from the research that's been conducted. So by sharing that executive summary, that's intended to be an introduction to the assessment for people, and people know that they can access the website to drill down into further information. I should say that the assessment focuses not only on the current situation and previous or recent trends, but also looks at what we anticipate to happen in the future around the different topics that are referenced there. So and the challenges and the opportunities that anticipated future can bring. In addition to yourselves, other statutory consultees are the Welsh Government, Office of the Wellbeing of Future Generations Commissioner, and all public bodies and members of the Public Services Board. So we would expect to hear back from the Health Board in the same way that we'll hear back from you on behalf of the local authorities, for example. So if I can refer you to section 3.2 of your report, which I'll just bring up on screen myself. There are certain questions that are standard in the consultation and that we'd like to discuss with you as well. So there are 5 questions there. So firstly, do you agree with the findings in the wellbeing assessment? Is there anything that we need to change? Is there anything that you think we've missed? Any significant gaps?
Just interrupt, Nicola. You said you were going to share your screen, but
oh,
on ours at the moment.
Sorry. No, sorry, I didn't intend to share my screen, Chair. I was just looking for the questions myself in the papers that have been shared. So if people are happy to refer to section 3.2 in the report.
Have you got the page of the document?
I have, yes. Page 26.
26, thank you. Page 26. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, are you happy for me to carry on?
Yeah, sorry, I'll try not to interrupt you again.
No problem, that's fine. Okay, so there are 5 questions that we've included in the consultation. The first 3 really refer to the contents and the quality of the assessment. So we'd like a feeling from you as to whether you agree overall with the findings, whether you think there's anything in there that needs to change, so any detail that you think might be inaccurate. Is there anything significant that you think we may have missed? And then the final 2 questions are more about the practical application of the assessment. We're conscious that this has been a big piece of work, and it's a really rich body of information about the current well-being of both Conwy and Denbighshire and opportunities for the future. So we're keen that we make this quite a live assessment and a useful tool to people. So we're asking people how we can support them to make good use of the wellbeing assessment and its contents. And then finally, if they're happy to hear any other comments or thoughts from people about the wellbeing assessment overall. Okay, so that's the overview that I wanted to give. Happy to hand over now to the chair and the committee for any questions or comments. Diolch.
Okay, thank you, Nicola, for that report. Lots and lots of detail that can be found, as you say, on the internet and so on, as well as that. And that point that you made about it's not shortage of data, it's how to actually respond to the data, and that's the or how to interpret the data. And that's something that we need to bear in mind. So over to the committee for reports, for comments. First of all, Cynghorydd Arwyl Roberts.
Diolch yn fawr I chi, Nicola, a diolch I chi, Mr Cadeirydd. Edrych ar y 5 cwestiwn sydd yn 3.2. Fedrwn ni'n cynllunio gormod i'r dyfodol. Mae yna pethau yn mynd I newid. Enghraifft, mae problemau mawr yn mynd I wynebu ein trigolion ni, hefo cynnydd mewn pris olew, pris nwy ac yn y blaen. Mi fydd lles ein trigolion ni yn dioddau, yn waith na gyda ni wedi rhagolwg yn y dyfodol. Felly, mae hwn yn ddogfen bwysig iawn, ond ydyn ni yn mynd I newid o fel mae'r blynyddoedd yn dod yn y blaen. Mae yna glodi mawr mynd I wynebu ni yn y ddwy sir, dwi'n teimlo. Felly, dyna sy'n mhoeni fi mwy na dim, sefyllfa sydd ar y gorwel, ac efo gymaint o newidiadau, ac efallai dwi'n edrych i'r ochr ddi rwan, mi fydd yna ryfel yn Ewrop cyn bo hir, pwy a wyr. Diolch.
Okay, thank you. That's the impossibility of all these things at the moment, and things are moving very, very quickly on a national scale. Nicola, do you want to make a comment on that?
Yes, thank you. We're very conscious actually in producing this assessment, particularly this time round, when we were producing it in the midst of a pandemic, that this time, more than any other times when we've produced these kind of needs assessments and strategic outlooks for the counties, that we're in a state of flux and change at the moment. And so there is definitely recognition that we will need to keep a close eye on some of the conclusions that we've reached so far and review them. And we may do so on an annual basis or as particular pressures emerge. But it's certainly something that where we recognise that there are unprecedented and unique pressures that we're facing at the moment that will make this assessment more dynamic than assessments have been probably over the last 20-30 years. So we will give that consideration. One of the benefits that we think that we've got a unique value about the way that we've presented our assessment is that it's online. So this isn't a document that has been written and would need to go through a whole new publication process. We can keep it live by virtue of the fact that it is a web-based assessment. And if there are key changes in our communities that we need to take account of. I think that, you know, every year we can revisit, do a little bit of a litmus test around about what's happening in the external environment and how that might influence our priorities going forward. And to do that external, that annual horizon scan of what might be happening in our communities is good practice in terms of project program management and strategic planning. We do have processes in place for reviewing our priorities on an annual basis, both at PSB and within local authorities.
Diolch, Nicola.
Thank you.
So over to Councillor Nigel Smith.
Thanks, Chair. I don't see much, or I haven't seen anything really in the report about self-sufficiency. And one of my concerns is that as a country and as a resident of North Wales, we don't seem to be self-sufficient, and that has many ramifications. So one of the first things that I was told when I joined the council back in 2012 is that we tend to lose young people from North Wales. So we educate them, we put a lot of time and money into educating our young people. And then the majority seem to leave Wales and only seem to return when they're heading towards retirement time. So we got a big problem there. That has ramifications for communities and for the Welsh language, you know. But we're also not self-sufficient in manufacturing. We have very little manufacturing, so people leave to get better employment. So there's not much in the way of good employment in North Wales because we're not self-sufficient in manufacturing. And then we look at energy supply, and we could do better with that. We have a lot of good resources, water and wind, that we could be doing far better, which would also create further employment than we're getting at this moment in time. So I really think that we ought to look at self-sufficiency. Food is another thing. I mean, Councillor Eva will tell you about farming. I don't want to talk about farming because I don't know much about it, but I know that a lot of our projects—
Sorry, has somebody got a radio on there?
Goes from away, and we need to address self-sufficiency. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah. So over to Nicola.
Yes, thank you. I think they're all really important points in terms of opportunities for us to identify in our communities going forward. I think within the executive summary and deeper down into the assessment, there is reference and headings around the ageing population and the young people headings as well, around the fact that net outward migration across Conwy and Denbighshire is an issue, and especially net outward migration of young people, which leaves us with an ageing population, which leads to a high care cost and lower revenue income as well for local authorities. Yes, and I think as well some of the points that you've made around manufacturing and energy, certainly within the assessment where we've thought about the opportunities afforded from a green economy and potential for improved home insulation and housing adaptation. These are certainly as well opportunities for us to become more self-sufficient and maybe create jobs as well. Thank you.
Okay, happy with that, Nigel?
Yeah, just, you know, we had locally, we were looking at installing some railings in one of our local parks, and they're coming from China, and there's a delay, and you're just thinking, why aren't they being brought locally? Rill did a wonderful, or Denbighshire did a wonderful harbour development here in Rill, but I believe that all the concrete blocks and everything came from Southern Ireland. So there are issues that are affecting local employment that we could be doing far better with.
Okay, thanks. Just to say that Llangollen is having a renovated high street at the minute, and the stone is coming from Yorkshire and the slate is coming from the Horseshoe Pass, which is fabulous. Any more issues that I see Councillor Don Milne.
Yeah, following on to Nigel's comment, I think we have to look at the broader picture to some extent, in that we all have advantages for certain particular resources, and we can make use of those. What we probably need, and a lot of this report actually highlights the environmental issues of all our actions, and we certainly need to ensure that we aren't transporting massive amounts around the world. I'm not too sure about the country. I think there is economies there. I also have to admit to being one of those people who actually did the reverse of our problem of loss of youth. I came as my youth to get a job here. So there are a few in walkers into the area as well. But I think probably even more so, we need to review the effects of COVID and the way that has changed our working habits. And that in itself could be a selling point for a lot of certainly more modern clean industries, where actual location doesn't matter, just as we're operating now. However much we complain about the need to be on Zoom all day, it does have its advantages. Perhaps we just have to learn, and at this point I'll take my own advice here, but I think we do have to learn to keep it as short, sharp and pertinent as possible. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor. Cynghorydd Mary Lloyd Davis, we'll come to you and then we'll go back to Nicola for some comments.
O, diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd. Wel, mae lot o wir yn beth sydd wedi cael ei ddeud y gyfeillion, ac dwi'n meddwl un o'r problemau rheswm ydy llechi'n dod o China. Yn rhatach nag oeddech chi'n medru prynu nhw'n lleol. Di bobl yn mynd i wario canodd o bunno i fod yn wladgarol, os liciwch chi, a prynu'n lleol os ydyn nhw'n cael o'r rhatach. A dyna'r broblem sgynna ni efo Llywodraeth Ganolog, os liciwch chi. Mi ddyle bod nhw yn edrych ar y pethau yma a rhoi pris arnyn nhw, fel bod nhw y bobl lleol yn gallu cystadlu. O'n ein diddorol rhai blynyddoedd yn ôl wan, roedd cyngor yn Gwynedd eisiau dweud bod rhaid i bob cais ddefnyddio llechi Cymru, sef llechi sydd Gaernarfon, fel oedd hi. Ond fe wrthodwyd hynny gan y Llywodraeth, nad oedd o ddim yn gystadleuol. Felly mae yna dipyn o broblemau gwreiddiol mae gennai ofn i fedru gwneud pethau mwy lleol. Diolch yn fawr.
Okay, thanks. So I said we'd go back to Nicola for a comment on this. I know some of these issues they're not really in the well-being agenda, are they? But over to you, Nicola, for a moment.
Thank you. Yes, yeah. Just reflecting on some of the messages that we've heard, I think you're probably right, Chair, that they're not directly corresponding with the wellbeing assessment, but nevertheless, they're important considerations that we can catalogue and that we can feed back into the PSB as it starts to develop its wellbeing plan, which it will do as a result of this assessment. So, happy to hear views, and we can, as I say, we can take them on board and feed them into PSB. Thank you.
Nigel's coming back in now. Is it on the same topic, Nigel?
Yeah, just on what Councillor Merrick was saying regarding the cost of items. We're on this big green agenda, nationally, internationally, locally, and you know, I know for a fact that our officers are looking at the carbon footprint of not just our facilities and what we do, you know, vehicle-wise, but we're also looking at what we purchase, the carbon footprint or effects of what we purchase. And, you know, our residents are really concerned about global warming and the issues that it's bringing forward. So it's a big thing. And no matter what we do, it will have a cost. We all understand that. You know, it will have a cost, but we just we just need to get in that mindset that we can't just be buying from the other side of the world because it's cheap. Because the problem with that is that you lose employment, tax coffers revenue for the government, Welsh language is affected. You know, we can see it. We can see it happening all around us, and by making the simple choice to try and get everything as local as we can make a big difference. And it is a simple choice. We've just got to grasp the bull by the horns and do it.
Okay, thanks. I think that point's been well made there. Thank you. So we'll go to Councillor Chris Hughes, please.
Thanks, Chair. It was on the same subject, and yes, I get that it has been hit a lot, but you know, we talk about well-being, and employment is a huge element of well-being. It is enormous, because if you take people's livelihoods away from them, it affects their mental health to a huge degree. And you know, the point that Nigel makes is really well made, and which I think is lost at times on people, because one of the key ways in which as a country in the past we have looked to address this issue has been through international development, where we've tried to put pressure on governments, tried to put support trade unions in some countries to actually fight for improved standards of living and improved way of life in their countries. Because you know, we talk about there not being much employment, particularly manufacturing in this area, but I think my second job after leaving school was actually in a factory in Mochdre, and at that time we had 2 hot point factories. We had Dalgarrog Aluminium, we had Quinton Hazels where I worked, we had a huge number of other factories, and in fact I was very heavily involved in the trade union movement at the time, so knew an awful lot about what was going on everywhere. And what we were finding is that the work wasn't just disappearing, it was being transferred out of the UK to Eastern Europe and to Asian countries, because they could get people to work for far less money, for far lower the terms and conditions they worked in were far reduced from what we were able to get in the UK. And you know, people look at that and say, oh well, we're asking too much money. Actually, no, we're not. You know, we're not doing enough to support improvements in other countries, and that is having an impact on our standard of living here. And an awful lot of, you know, people come, there was talk not that long ago that the issue was all about migration and inward migration into the UK. Well, why do people come here? For a better standard of living, for higher standards of living. And actually, if we did more to support those nations and the people of those nations in improving their standards of living, we could get to the situation that Nigel expresses, because we should be self-sufficient. But when I used to work for a company called Quinton Hazels, it cost us about £4 to produce a steering joint, yeah, and we could import it for less than £1. You know, and that's the sort of thing you're up against. We can't just turn around and say buy from our own, because people won't, industry won't. We have to start looking at the building blocks of why that happens. And it does, when we talk about future generations, and when we talk about all of that, everything, because we live in a global economy now, things that are happening on other parts of on the other side of the world significantly impact what we are able to achieve here from that perspective. Because at the end of the day, industry will only ever buy where it can make a profit.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Councillor Hughes. I mean, that goes right across all industries, and it is linked to well-being, as all our speakers have said, and I'm sure that Nicola's noted those points that that have been made. Do you want to come back on that, Nicola? We've got Liz Roberts wants to come in next, but do you want to say anything further on that?
I was just thinking, actually, Chair, that I'm sure if the Wellbeing of Future Generations Commissioners was listening in, I'm sure it would be music to their ears to hear some of the conversations here. The key message from that office really is about economic well-being not being the be-all and end-all, but encouraging us to take a much broader view of well-being.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Liz Roberts.
Thank you. Well, I'd just like to say thank you very much indeed to the officers for putting this report together. As you say here, there's a huge amount of detail, and chosen to summarise the 60 or so topics into 7 wellbeing goal summaries. And I think this is where the wellbeing goals that we have set ourselves through the Future Generations Act is very useful. It enables you to focus on what we need to focus on. I think, you know, all that's very valid points made this morning, but one of the questions asked is, will we use this wellbeing assessment? And I think from what the comments have been made this morning, yes, this will enable us to look at the various goals that we've set ourselves and to see how we can make a difference using those 7 wellbeing goals. So I think, yes, we will use this needs assessment. And I think when we put together the population health needs assessment for North Wales and wellbeing assessment together, it gives us an opportunity to see how we can take North Wales forward, and especially Conwy and Denbighshire. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Just to add to the point about the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, certainly when I became a councillor in 2017, I looked at that act, and it really was quite inspirational, really, that all decisions have to look back at the act, and it goes right the way through the PSB and everybody, doesn't it, in the public service. So it is really important, and it is important to see the interlinking of well-being of people in their homes with where the things that they're buying is actually made. So yeah, a good discussion on that. The other thing about point 4 that you were asking about, Nicola, about use of it, I have to say the thing that I've used the most by a long way from the previous assessment was the sort of, I think it was about 2 or 3 sides of A4, which were sort of cartoon type things with information about where we are at the moment within the 2 counties with regard to mental health and all the different issues that it's dealing with. And that was so useful because it's easy to carry around with you, and it's not too grand a document to sort of be really fully up on, but you just have a quick glance at it and it reminds you about the real poverty that does exist around us and that we meet in everyday life, and the extent of that right across the 2 counties. So that for me was the thing that I continue to use now and look forward to using the new one when it comes out. Any other councillors to comment? Okay.
Chair, excuse me, sorry if I could just come back on that point, actually, just to inform the committee that we are actually in the process of commissioning some infographics to help people to focus in on some of the key findings in this assessment. So that's really good to hear that that was really useful and practical for you as well. And yep, you can expect to see something like that in the near future.
Thanks. I didn't know the term infographics, but thanks for that. Yeah, yeah, really useful stuff. Thanks. Councillor Jeffrey Corrie.
Sorry, Chair, I thought I'd take my hand down. Some of the issues going to say have been spoken on, particularly with Chris, because I do understand where he worked and the time, like 30 odd years ago, 40 years ago. But I think what we need to really look at, it's been mentioned, is what are our resources, what are our natural resources, which we need to, to develop in terms of economic generation, jobs, etc. But when you look at the manufacturing, general manufacturing, which has been mentioned today, and we're sitting here now looking at the various images on here, and we're all guilty in a sense. Everything you're wearing, using, has probably been made in Pakistan, India, or China. And just taking that point Chris made about migration of industry, I remember well the industries he talks about because I worked in them. When you go into places like China, for instance, or Pakistan, where a year's wages here, a week's wages here is what they earn in a year if they're lucky. So back in your time, Chris, maybe £150 a week is what they earned in a year. Now, industry, as you know, has shifted. One of the reasons when you bring product in ready for the shelf, cheaper than what you can buy the raw materials for, you just can't do it. But I think at the end of the day, it's a shift in culture. Most of these countries that have, hundreds of years culture, you ain't going to change. And the only way we can really improve our area, as I say, is what can we offer, what can we do, whether it's high-tech industry or our natural resources. And, general manufacturing, I don't think you even go there at the moment, but maybe in time if their cultures change, which will take a long time. Sorry, a bit rubbishy, but that's my thoughts.
No, thank you very much for your comments. Thanks for supporting the comments that people have made earlier as well in different perspective. Councillor Nigel Smith.
Yeah, interesting comments there from Councillor Jeff. And, we all can see the ramifications of purchasing from countries like China, where they're building up their armies and causing issues in their territorial waters. And then we've got, obviously, Russia, who, some parts of, well, not our country, but some parts of Europe are heavily reliant on for their gas and the issues that that's causing. So I would like to move the recommendation, but I need a bit of guidance here because I would like our concerns about self-sufficiency to be included in there if at all possible.
I'm sure that is possible. I don't know, have we got sufficient to know what a suggested wording might be? The recommendation is to receive and support the report, and perhaps we could add another second one on the topic. Do you want to suggest any words, Nigel, or shall we ask?
It's the implication of not being self-sufficient. It's to do with employment, so we lose our young people, which affects our communities, the Welsh language. It's vast, isn't it, really? But if we could be more self-sufficient, so that would bring more employment, it would be more buoyant communities. The Welsh language would benefit. Everybody would benefit if we could just start to turn the tide back to where it used to be.
Thanks. Well, I think that Fiona is perhaps looking to put some formal words down, but whilst she's doing that, perhaps we'll go to two other councillors for comment, and then we'll come back to that in a second. So, Councillor Don Milne first.
Thank you. I'm a little worried about the term self-sufficiency. It breeds the problem of actual isolation. It breeds the problem of actual reduction in our actual standard of living. And what we need to do is look more at worldwide. And this is really beyond this meeting anyway, but I think it's because of that that I'm concerned about the wording here, that we can expect that countries that we are worried about, because yes, they've got low income economies and can produce more cheaply. Well, that does change. You only have to look at the semiconductor industry, which in my early days, Japan was the one churning it out, and then it moved on to Taiwan and so forth. It's down to the actual labour costs within the economies. And more importantly, the other aspect is that there are some areas where we can and should be producing things more efficiently here. And it is more worthwhile to protect those industries. I'm thinking here, particularly mentioned earlier about farming, the sheep industry and negotiations for imports. We need to protect what we've got, yes, but we can't just take a blanket, we must be self-sufficient. That is a dangerous, too broad a stroke. We need to support what we have and develop what we have.
Okay, thanks. I think that will be borne in mind certainly in what we present. It's considering that issue, isn't it, rather than insisting we become completely self-sufficient. So thanks for that. Councillor Arwel Roberts.
Diolch yn fawr unwaith eto, Mr Cadeirydd. Mae Cynghorydd Smith wedi codi fi I feddwl sôn am y perygl i'n diwylliant ni ac i'r iaith Gymraeg, ac mae yna symudiad mawr ger bron yn wedig yn Sir Gyfyrddin ar hyn o bryd I gymeryd drosodd ardaloedd, pentrefi, ffermydd I blannu coed. Hynny yw, maen nhw yn dweud da ni wedi gwneud dipyn o waith I wella'r hinsawdd, a maen nhw'n cymryd drosodd ceiau a lawer o geiau. Ac felly mae rhaid I ni beidio anghofio mae y gymuned wledig sydd yn cadw diwylliant yn Sir Conwy a Sir Ddinbych, ac rhaid ni fod yn ofalus iawn hefo'r syniad o blannu coed. A mae rhaid i'r siroedd yma stopio a cynghori ffermwyr I beidio rhoi eu tir I blannu coed. Mae ddigon o goed, dwi'n siŵr, yn Sir Ddinbych a Sir Conwy ar hyn o bryd. Ac mae hyn yn berygl mawr I ffermwyr o bob iaith. Ac mae eisiau cynhyrchu mwy o fwyd. Ydych chi'n sôn am gynhyrchu pethau. Mae cynhyrchu bwyd yn bosib oddi fewn i'n cymunedau ni. Felly, diolch I chi, Cynghorydd Smith. Arbennig o dda. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Okay, thanks. Let's
Could I just say that, you know, it's not just about what we purchase or what we manufacture. As Councillor Arwell quite rightly said, that, you know, it's our food produce, so we need to make sure that our food supplies are secure, but also our energy supplies. It's everything. And if we can do more, you know, I don't think we'll ever become 100% self-sufficient, but if we're less reliant on external supply, then it will only benefit without a doubt.
Okay, thanks. So we need to have some words for a suggestion. Fiona, do you have any suggestion, or shall we put it on to Councillor Smith to do?
Well, I was just looking at this now, because there's 5 different points here in 3.2, isn't it? So you agree with the finding of the wellbeing assessment. Is there anything we need to change, or is there anything we've missed? It probably goes in there somewhere that, you know, you need greater emphasis on sourcing and supporting the sourcing of resources as local as possible, so that it does not have a negative impact on local communities, on employment, language and culture, and supports the development of those fields, perhaps something along those lines.
Also, it's the environment. You know, we're all mindful of the carbon footprints of all our produce. So it's many things. It's a vast, broad subject, isn't it? But we need to be less resilient, less reliant, should I say, on external supply. And that will bring down our carbon footprint, create employment, give us food and energy security, help the Welsh language. It's a vast, broad brush.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Jeffrey Corey, I can see you've got your hand up. Do you want to help us out with these recommendations?
I think Councillor Don Milne was the best suggestions I've heard. I did say myself, it's about our local resources, you know, making use and expanding on our local abilities, local resources, as we mentioned, it's everything really. But Councillor Don Milne could repeat what he said, if we can remember. It's not a global, it is a global thing. We ain't going to change the global situation, but we can contribute towards it. But if Don Milne, if Chair, could just put that, what he said, it was quite the thing, what he said. Thank you.
I think it was just the last part of what he said, wasn't it?
Yes.
Can you repeat what you said, Councillor Milne?
Can you remember?
Good point. I think it was more a case of making best use of our own natural strengths. It's that kind of concept. And I suppose I don't like to use the word protection, but certainly we need to ensure that we do not lose any of our unique elements. I'm sure somebody can put this a bit better. It's the kind of thing I'd want to sort of write down, go away, come back an hour later and say, yes, those words need swapping around. Because it's not something I see that we need to add a great deal, except we do need to make, I suppose here it's really a matter of making the most of our own natural talents and resources and abilities.
Okay, thanks.
I think Nicola Neal may have some wording.
Right.
Thank you, please.
Nicola. Nicola.
Thank you. Yes, sorry, I was just finding the right buttons. Yes. Okay, so listening to the conversation and around the, I think, a recognised need or desire for greater consideration for sustainability, I think, in our procurement processes. I wonder if a recommendation around that might be useful. For the PSB, we need to be conscious that its levers are limited. It is a cluster of public sector organisations, and they do have some power within their own procurement processes. So I wonder if a recommendation or a suggestion from this committee might be for the PSB member bodies to consider where they can have a greater influence over well-being in terms of their own procurement processes, and perhaps lobby and influence at a national or community level for greater consideration of well-being or sustainability impact.
Okay, thank you for that suggestion. Does that seem, that seems the sensible way forward, because we don't want to have a resolution which is outside what the PSB can actually achieve, do we? We want to sort of nudge them in the right direction, really, and that's the issue that we want to be considered as they're completing this well-being assessment. So yeah, I think that's probably a way forward. There've been two more councillors put their hand up, and I just want to go to them if we could be as brief as possible, because we can end up just going around in circles on this issue, and we want to be a fairly brief meeting this morning. First of all, Cynghorydd Ifor Floyd.
Diolch, Cadar. I think Nicola's hit the nail on the head. That the word sustainability is what we're looking at more than anything else. Anyone who's read the book back from the 70s by E.B. Schumacher, Fritz Schumacher, on Small is Beautiful, where they look introspectively at smaller communities and how they work. This is where we need to be. I personally import from America and have been from China, and what used to cost me £2,200 now costs £18,500. I can now source cheaper from this country than I can from these other trading blocks. And that's how we'll have to start thinking. On the back of that, it's got an advantage because it'll have less of a carbon footprint, and we'll put the work locally as well. So this is the way we've got to look. So I advocate anyone to pick up that book again and remind themselves it's called Small is Beautiful, and it is exactly what we're talking about today. Diolch.
Okay, thanks, and that's a good bedtime reading for us all, I think. Cynghorydd Meric Lloyd Davies.
Diolch yn fawr eto, Mr Cadeirydd. Cyd-weld â llawer sydd wedi cael ei ddeud, a mae be mae Nicola wedi dod i fyny efo, dwi'n meddwl yn cwmpasu'r cwbl. Haid ni gofio'n rhaid, gymaint a dan isio newid pethau, mae Llywodraeth Ganolog, yn Llundain neu yn Gaerdydd, sgyn y chwip ynde. Ac chymod, os dyn nhw yn barod i dir gael ei werthu i'r cwmnïau mawr yma sydd eisiau plannu coed, sut da ni'n mynd i sefyll yn erbyn hynny? Os da chi'n cael pris da am eich ffarm neu'ch tŷ, ydych chi'n droi o lawr ac cymryd pris llai? Aluminium Môn, pam ddaru nhw gau? Oedd trydan yn rhy ddrud. Pwy oedd yn rhedeg trydan? Cwmni oddi allan i Brydain. Da ni wedi colli rheolaeth ar lawer o beth da ni'n gynhyrchu yn y wlad yma, mae gennau ofn. Ond diolch i chi am yr amser.
Okay, thanks. I think it's time now to crystallise that. So I think we've got the idea of what we want to put in. In terms of the recommendations, the first one is to receive and support the report, and the second one to respond to the questions listed below. And Rhian, would you like to take us through where we are at the moment?
I'm presuming there that everybody is in agreement with that one. Is there anything we need to change, or is there anything we've missed? Those two, I think that's where this recommendation around the PSB partners are asked to consider where they can have greater impact on the well-being by through their procurement processes. Is that what you want to add in there?
I think that's the gist of it, isn't it? I wonder if the committee would agree that if we had a form of words,
yeah,
we understand the debate and what the desire of the committee is,
yeah,
and that could be formulating the exact words with Nicola and yourself after the meeting, and then maybe the committee would authorise Councillor Nigel Smith, the Vice Chair, and myself to just say that yes, we agree that that's captured the desire. I think everyone's made it quite clear what the intention is, and I think everyone's alluded to this as well. Trying to make up resolutions by committee is probably the most difficult thing that you could possibly do. So I don't know if the committee would be happy for us to proceed on that, because we know exactly what we want to say. It's just getting those exact words to fit in.
Yeah.
Are we happy with that?
Cynnig, Mr Cadeirydd.
Okay, so you're happy to propose the, yeah, okay, thanks. Councillor Meric Lloyd Davies happy to propose, and Councillor Nigel Smith happy to second. Can we see all those in favour, please? And anyone against? Okay, thank you very much. So that one is overwhelmingly carried, if not unanimous. So we'll get those final words to the Chair and Vice Chair for confirmation, and then we can circulate those to the rest of the committee. Okay. Thank you, Nicola, for bringing the report to us today. Always a difficult task because it covers such a vast area, but I think you can see from the debate the way that all councillors are thinking about how the well-being can be improved in the county by considering this issue alongside all the many other ways of dealing with such a vast issues, and well-being is such an enormous area. So diolch yn fawr, Nicola, thanks for coming today.
Diolch pawb. Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you in future meetings, I'm sure. Okay, thank you. So let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Conwy, sorry, it's the Forward Work Programme, which is on
feedback from the
apologies,
workshop,
apologies, missed it out. It's the feedback from the workshop. Just to put everyone in the picture, the councillors in the committee had a pre-meeting which we discussed the role of this committee, and we've come up with a summary of what happened in that meeting. So we should all agree that it's a correct record, of course, because we've just said it ourselves in the previous meeting. But just to put it on the record formally of what our discussions covered. So over to Rhian yet again. Yeah.
Okay, diolch yn fawr. Thank you to Dawn as well, because while we were discussing this morning, Dawn was busy typing away, so she sent a summary over to me here. Now, we went through the role of the committee, because as you know, Wales Audit, or Audit Wales as they're called now, wanted us to have a look at what we're supposed to be doing and where we're going in future, basically. So we looked at the role, and everybody agreed that we know the role of the committee, and over the years that we've been we've been trying to gain an understanding of the PSB and the partners work as part of the PSB and the benefits to them of being part of the PSB. But of course the pandemic hit and it's affected everything, including our meetings and managing to get partners to come to us because they've been put on COVID duties. So we looked at the powers we've got and what's possible. Our members are definitely keen, following the local authority elections this year, we'll have a new joint committee and they're keen now that that committee can hit the ground running. You're all comfortable with the powers you've got and what you can do and what you can't do with them, and you understand them now. So there'll be a role around the new council of training the new committee up on those. Hopefully some of you at least will be back here, so you'll be able to help us along. The difficulty has been getting the PSB is such a high level committee, is getting to grips with its work, and to do this, you've been inviting the statutory partners to the joint committee to understand their roles and their contributions, and as I say, this will continue in the next term. What you want to try and achieve, we're now expected to work more on a regional basis and understanding how regional and local work links in, and this is going to be really important going forward with the CJCs, and also understanding and promoting the synergies between the Public Services Board, the North Wales Regional Partnership Board, and there's also synergies with the North Wales Economic Ambition Board and other boards that will come into being. So it's trying to get all those bodies working together to deliver what you want for the residents. The Joint Scrutiny Committee understands the importance of making meaningful recommendations. I think that's been demonstrated this morning, hasn't it? Going forward, I think you're quite keen to perhaps co-opt members onto the committee for specific pieces of work and in a bid to increase public engagement. And I think Nicola touched on something there earlier now about when the new wellbeing plan is up and running and the wellbeing assessment. Also, you'll probably have a role to play in trying to find out from the communities and from residents, you know, are they delivering, is the PSB delivering for them what they want to see? Planning scrutiny and informing the forward work programme appropriately. I think that has become clearer as well. We'll be doing that. Design and support arrangements to achieve the Joint Scrutiny Committee's aims. Using the various plans and strategies and censuses that will be coming out next year to enrich and inform the forward work programme. I think in the last item you said that you'll use the wellbeing assessment for that purpose. So I think you can say you've done that and you will continue to do it. The regular evaluation and of the effectiveness of scrutiny, I think, is an effective and useful exercise to undertake, because you can then identify any areas of weaknesses and how you want to go on. Again, the co-option, public engagement again, as we've mentioned, with the, and engaging with the stakeholders. If the PSB have those the PSB have consulted with to see if the plan has been achieved and is achieving their expectations. More engagement with town and community and city councils, because there needs to be a clear link, I think, there with them. Going forward, perhaps engaging with some of the invited participants to the PSB, which is again the town community councils and other voluntary organisations. And to go about perhaps having pre-meetings with the chairs and vice chairs ahead of the meeting, and to discuss the formality of the meeting, but also perhaps to give invitations if they wish to join for other joint scrutiny committee members to those meetings, to see, you know, what lines of questioning or what areas they want to look at on the development of the forward work programme. And also perhaps that in future the chair or the vice chair of the joint scrutiny committee are given an opportunity to present the minutes of their meetings to the PSB itself, because that would help to build a link between the PSB and yourselves and to strengthen the relationships. I'm not sure if Dawn has noticed I've missed anything out from there.
No, I don't think so, Rhian. I was just going to mention the minutes to the PSB. So no, I think that covered it. I don't know whether members have got any more comments to make on that.
Okay, thank you very much. I also had that point down as well, Dawn, and I was going to raise that, and glad you said that right at the end, Rhian. So thanks, that's a really good summary of what we discussed. Thank you very much for Dawn and Rhian for doing that, as always. I mean, that's just a report back, isn't it? So we don't need to actually have a resolution or anything.
Well,
So,
on that, if you all agree, that will go into the minutes, and then there'll be an opportunity then for the chair or the vice chair to report it to the Public Services Board next time.
yeah, are we all in agreement? Okay, thank you very much, thanks. So let's move on to the final item on the agenda, the one that everyone always looks forward to, and that's the future work programme. Brianna, you taking it or Dawn?
Okay, I don't mind. Do you want to take it, Dawn? Do you want me to take it?
No, I don't mind taking it, Rhian. Yeah, so the forward work programme there on pages 83, 84 of your pack. So as we did, I think we discussed this previously, we've got a meeting, I think, scheduled for the 11th of March provisionally. It's not showing on the forward plan, but I think this originally was for the wellbeing and assessments. So I don't think we've got any statutory business to cover. And also with the looming pre-election period, do you think it would be best to cancel that meeting on the 11th? So I need, obviously, for you to have a think about that one. And then also, as is in the forward plan, obviously we'll have a new administration post-elections. So what myself and Rhian are intending to do is give a training session probably late September, early October, because obviously members will be very, very busy with their own induction programmes, and we need them also to have had some joint scrutiny training as well. So we thought late September, early October, we'll put a training session on for new members, similar like the one we did in 2019. And then we'll have our first official meeting of the new Joint Scrutiny Committee in October. So that will see progress of the wellbeing plan. So, and then obviously the late September, early October training will also give an opportunity to have a look at how we can populate the forward plan going forward, based on discussions we've had today, obviously, and yeah, and any other members' ideas, new members' ideas. So. Happy to take any questions.
We just need to make a decision that we're going to cancel next meeting, I think, don't we?
Yeah, I'd like to propose that we cancel that meeting on the 11th, Chair.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Liz Roberts. Are we happy? Can we please show? Thank you. Yes, okay, that's agreed. So we cancel the next meeting. And the other points, are we going to accept the report? We have a proposer, Adwell Roberts, Councillor Adwell Roberts to propose, and Councillor Liz Roberts to second. All agreed? Okay.
Ca i ofyn, Mr Cadeirydd, Meirig Davies yma,
Okay.
bod ni'n gallu gosod dyddiad yn Hydref i'r cynghorwyr newydd, pwy bynnag ydyn nhw, neu i'r rhai sy'n dod nôl, fel bod y cynghorwyr yn gallu gosod i'w dyddiau nhw i'r pwyllgorau gwahanol sydd gyda ni fel Cyd-Bwyllgor a Sir Conwy.
I think Rhiannon and Dawn will come back.
Yes, both Rhiannon and I we were discussing this yesterday, Meirig, so it's on our plan to get, because we're all setting our timetables, obviously, so yeah, we will do that probably for the rest of the year now, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dyn ni'n siarad ag o ran y dyddiad yr hyfforddiant yna, da ni jyst yn aros rwan i weld yn union pryd mae dyddiau hyfforddi'r ddwy sir ar gyfer hwnna. Mae'r cyfarfod ei hun yn mis Hydref ar yr 11 o Hydref, mae'r dyddiad yna yn nyddiadur y cyngor. Da ni hefyd yn edrych yn obeithiol ar gyfer trefnu cyfarfod wedyn mis Mawrth flwyddyn nesaf, a y dyddiad ydy, da ni'n gobeithio y 10 o Fawrth, ond da ni angen jyst cadarnhau hynny.
Okay, thank you. We've agreed the forward work programme then. We know what's going to happen in the next year or so. And let's, well, who knows who will be in the committee at that stage, but we'll pass on the baton, hopefully, and hopefully they're in better shape now than a year ago when we were really nowhere at all. So diolch yn fawr pawb, and have a good day, and hopefully see you at another time.
Well,
Thanks, Graham. Thank you very much.